So good morning, everyone. I decided to do another one of these fireside chats. Worked out pretty well last time, without the fire, of course, or the fireplace, I should say. So I decided to do another one of these because that's what's in my heart to do, and I didn't want to do it in the car. I wasn't going to go for a walk because it's raining off and on. It was pouring. It may not be pouring now, but I decided to do it like this. Car thing doesn't always work out that well. It's still warm enough to where I have to have the air conditioning on, so there's a lot of background noise, if I try to set it up that way. So I'm just like, I'm going to do it like this. Like I'm talking to people in my living room. Just talking, we're just having a talk, just a chat. So, yesterday I actually did my first live stream on the Substack channel. Wanted to see if that would work, and it actually did. And got quite a few views from the clip that they made. I didn't make it. They made the clip. And I got a lot of views from that short clip, that 23-second clip. Like I said, they made it. I didn't. And I shared it, and not only the Substack, but the post as well as the stream itself. I thought it came out pretty well. I shared a lot of stuff on there that on a lot of different topics and views and so forth, viewpoints. Which, like I said, I think it came out pretty well. Some people might find it insulting and offensive. I don't know, maybe. They might find this insulting and offensive, too. Because I'm going to talk about some things that other people have mentioned, and it first came to my attention a few days ago. But other people have done live streams on, and they've talked about it on their channels and so forth, and I'm going to get into that. But the main thing is this. We're at a point now where it's 2 Thessalonians 2:9 through 12. And I got that scripture this morning because my friend Will sent it to me. He actually posted it, the scripture, in response to something that I posted earlier, and then he texted it to me as well. And if you really look at that, 2 Thessalonians 2:9 through 12, I think we're in that time now. I really do. It's almost like people want to be lied to. They want to be deceived. It's like they would rather be deceived or be lied to, be told a soft lie rather than a hard truth. It's almost like that now. And because of that, then, like it says in the scripture, that God will give us over, for anybody who chooses to be deceived or wants to be deceived, to a strong delusion, because they'd rather believe the lie. They would rather believe what they're told, what they're shown, what they have been accustomed to believe, programmed to believe, what have you. And there's a movie called Snake Eyes that came out in 1998. And like I said, it's been decoded. Enter the Stars with Casey just did it. He actually did it in 2020 the first time around, and then he kind of replayed it today, and I shared it to the post, and I like what he did. And then also Decoding with Cody and Joseph Aquaviva, who I watch every once in a while, but I usually don't share their stuff because of the gematria aspect. I have mixed feelings about that because I understand the reasoning and the purpose behind it for the numbers, for the number codes, and for what they mean, and the Kabbalism, and it's the language of the elites, the language of the occult. I understand it, but I don't feel particularly comfortable in sharing it, at least not on the YouTube channel. I might share it to the Substack or whatever, because I don't want to promote that. However, I understand the purpose behind it, because it does make a lot of sense when numbers equals letters and letters equal numbers. And at least they don't use it to try to, push a rapture or any particular agenda. they're just using it for investigative purposes. And that's my opinion. That's what I've found anyway by watching the things that they put out. So, you know, um, I can respect that because they're at least trying to use it to say, listen, this equals this and this equals that, and that's strange. Now, some people would call that coincidence. I mean, a bunch of coincidences, you know, and other people would call that evidence. you know, uh, maybe not hard evidence necessarily, but some things I think might be, but they would call it evidence. And unlike, you know, because I got to get into this because of the delusion and because of the deception, you know, before I get into the snake eyes thing, is unlike, you know, people like Exalted Lamb 1 or others, that's the one that comes to mind more often than anything, of these consistent timelines of just craziness and chaos that start on a date and end on a date, always culminating with a rapture, first a baby rapture, child rapture, or whatever, then the rest of the rapture, the 144,000, you know, and then the, you know, the tribulation and all the rest of this stuff, you know, which he's wrong again about. Big shock. The next timeline was 922, 923. Well, today's 924. I know that because of my 25th. It's the our son's, my wife and my son's 25th birthday. Happy birthday, bud. You know, if he watches this. But I mean, so wrong again. Doesn't matter though. Still have 32,000 subscribers. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because people would rather believe the lie. They're to the point now they'd rather believe the lie. They would rather, I really believe that they would rather believe the lie, the soft lie rather than the hard truth, because they just you can't handle the truth, you know. I mean, seriously, you know, they just can't. They just can't. They can't wrap their minds around the truth. So, you know, at least Decoding with Cody and Joseph Aquaviva and so forth, they don't do that. And he did a pretty good breakdown of the movie Snake Eyes as well. But this is what, like I said, before I get into that, I got to do some background here. When this whole first thing started on September 10th, I always had my questions right off the bat, and I didn't buy into it immediately because, like, what came to my mind, and I knew this was a quote, but I didn't know who said it, but I actually got the quote backwards. But this is what came to my mind, and this is what I posted. Maybe not right on that date, but shortly after that. I said, believe none of what you see and only half of what you hear. Well, what I didn't know is the first part of that was the tagline on the movie poster for Snake Eyes from 1998. But I'll get into that in a minute. But when I looked up the quote, I actually got it backwards. But I wasn't trying to copy off of anybody. This is just what was in my heart and my mind. I was just like, I am not going to believe what I see because I've been duped before and because I've done enough investigations myself and I've seen enough other investigations or people do other investigations. I'm just not going to believe this verbatim. I'm not going to take it at face value. So that's what came to my mind, is believe none of what you see and only half of what you hear. Well, actually, the quote is, believe only half of what you see. Let me see if I got this right. Believe only half of what you hear and none of what you see. Something like that. I probably messed it up, but if anybody wants to look it up, it was Edgar Allan Poe that actually said it. He actually put it in a short story of his in 1845. So where I talked about believe none of what you see, he was saying basically believe none of what you hear. Or half of what you hear, none of what you see, something of that nature. But anyway, I just wasn't going to believe this, you know, and I still don't, and I'll tell you why, you know, and the Snake Eyes movie really kind of blew me away. I had seen that movie, but it had been a long, long time ago. It first came out in 1998, and back then I watched movies for entertainment purposes, not to learn from them. I watched them because they had big name actors. And for entertainment purposes, you know, they made them look cool, and in the movie posters or in the trailers or whatever, or something interesting. And like I said, I always like mysteries. I always like dramas, suspense, thrillers, stuff like that. And the director of that movie is Brian De Palma, and I was familiar with his work. He directed the first Mission Impossible movie, and he also directed other, thriller, suspense type movies. So I was familiar with his work. So it intrigued me, and also the actors, Nicolas Cage, Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan, from Forrest Gump, and everybody knows who Nicolas Cage is. So I watch movies for entertainment purposes, right? So, and at the time, I didn't understand hand signals. I didn't understand what they meant, and I didn't think anything of them. I didn't know this stuff in 1998. I was 28 years old. I didn't know this stuff. I didn't wake up till 2015 for the most part. So, and I mean, and Nicolas Cage in the movie poster, it says basically believe only half of what you see, or something like that, or something of that nature. And then he's holding his hands like this, the upside down triangle, like we see Trump do all the time and the elites do all the time. That's how he's holding his hands, just like that. Not like this, not like that, not like that, not even like that. No, just like this, just like that. Look it up for yourself. Decoding with Cody, his channel, Enter the Stars with Casey, or just look up the movie poster, for Snake Eyes, 1998. You'll see it yourself. But anyway, so I didn't think anything of that, But I remember seeing the movie, and I just thought it was really interesting and intriguing. I haven't seen it in a long time, and so I don't remember a lot of it. But Enter the Stars with Casey did a very good job of breaking it down. I guess, like I said, back in 2020, or maybe I didn't say that before, I don't remember, but back in 2020, and then he kind of updated it for today. And as I'm watching this thing, as I'm watching his decode, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This just confirms even more of what I already believed. But the thing that really got my attention that I heard a few days before is the Secretary of Defense that gets assassinated inside the, I think it's a casino, I think it's a Trump casino too, in film, who gets assassinated, gets shot in the neck, okay, and his name is Charles Kirkland. And the date when they're in the casino, because there's a boxing match going on, and the guy's name is Tyler, okay, they call him Tyler the Executioner, Lincoln the Executioner Tyler, or something like that, is the man that's supposed to win, but I guess he takes a dive in the boxing match. It actually occurs on September 10th. Now, some people would call that an unbelievable coincidence. Other people would say that's predictive programming. I would say the predictive programming crowd would probably be right. September 10th, Lincoln the Executioner Tyler. Secretary of Defense that gets assassinated, his name is Charles Kirkland, and he's shot in the neck. Okay. Well, even before I knew anything about this whole thing, and people have sent me a few times, it's been emailed to me, people have left it in the comments section or whatever else. I'm very familiar with the video from the Marine sniper that talked about how this was all done, and how the wound actually came from the back, either the back of the neck or the base of the base of the skull area, maybe even through, the cervical spine, hard to say for sure, but somewhere in that region, and then came out through here, okay? All right, that's plausible, makes sense, all right? But because of my background, and because of the things I've done in my life, and the things I've seen in my life, the things I've observed, and even going back to the Parkland shooting, that was really the thing that first really got my attention. I think called for an uprising. Some other people broke down uh, from what was that, Marjorie Stone, I think, school in Florida, because I was in Florida at the time as well. Uh, I just have my doubts about a lot of things, and then the Butler thing, in Pennsylvania was just insulting to my intelligence. And I mean, that was an easy breakdown for me. I was like, come on, give me a break. I just never bought into this stuff, right? But that does seem plausible. I will admit that, from the back of the neck or the skull or whatever, cervical spine, and come out here. Okay. Still doesn't explain a few things, though. Still does not explain where's the bullet, the projectile fragments, whatever else. It's gone. They covered it up because they never had a crime scene, and now it's all covered with concrete. Still doesn't explain the trapdoor thing that called for an uprising exposed, okay? Like they showed in the movie The Prestige, like I mentioned several times before. Everything is in the movie FX, The Prestige, and now the movie Snake Eyes. Okay? People look it up themselves if they want to. Anyway, doesn't explain that. Doesn't explain the lack of blood when they're carrying him out, loading him in the SUV. Doesn't explain why they loaded him in an SUV instead of an ambulance. Doesn't explain the blatant lies that I'll get into in a minute. Does not explain, the blood spray, the lack of blood spray, I should say, the arterial blood spray. Because even if the bullet is lodged in the neck and there's no exit wound per se, where a bullet comes out somewhere, projectile fragments come out somewhere, even if that is the case, well, they lead us to believe that it is a 30-06 still. They're still sticking with that narrative, and that this dude had like a Superman neck or something, making him sound like Superman, or so much like our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, like nothing can exit his neck or whatever, like it gets lodged in. A 30-06, something about that long and about that wide. Can't really show it that well, but look up a 30-06 bullet. It can take down an elephant. Okay, give me a break. But that's the narrative. That's what they're telling us. They're not changing that. Okay, so even if that is true, and this wasn't a hologram that I'll get into in a minute. Okay, even if all of that is true, there's still so many questions. And why there was never a crime scene, the area is never secured, it was never treated like a crime scene ever. And then that fool takes the same chair that the man is sitting in, that gets shot, and then, pulls it over, as you see later on, steps on that exact same chair that would have been a major part of the crime scene, a major part of the evidence, okay, of everything that was happening. I mean, all of this stuff would have been secured. All of it would have been hands off, nobody touch anything, make sure you have your gloves on, we've got a crime scene here. It's just unreal. It's absolutely unreal. So this fool takes this chair like it's a step stool, and he drags it over, he brings it over to the side, where, and then he basically, removes the camera, we're led to believe is a camera, and then like the SIM card, like a chip from the camera. All of this is on video. People can look it up. It's all out there. They just have to research if they want to. And nobody says anything. All of this is evidence. All of it. And nobody says anything about it. Nobody does it. There's no cops. There's nothing. 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 What's most plausible to me is what Green-Eyed Okie shared. Jesus is the only way, Green-Eyed Okie, what she shared. And what I shared earlier from the Substack that I put on the post. And if people are familiar with this, with the technology that we have today, that makes me wonder why they didn't even fake a rapture last night. Maybe they will tonight. I doubt it. But, it makes me wonder why they didn't even attempt to try to fake a rapture last night. Is it's a hologram. That's how realistic holograms are now. And if you don't believe me, research it for yourself. Look it up for yourself. It's a hologram. Because supposedly that camera that the idiot stepped on the chair, and I will call him that. I mean, come on, because I'll get into why in a second. I mean, this clown, this staged fool, this useful idiot, whatever. He pulls the chair over. He steps on it like it's a step stool. Nobody says anything about it. No respect at all. Supposedly, this guy just gets shot and killed in front of everybody, right? Sitting in that same chair. And this guy grabs that same chair that this man gets shot and killed in and uses it as a step stool to remove the camera from the tent area. I'd kick his ass. I'm just saying it. That would infuriate me. Are you kidding me? I'd knock him right off the thing. I mean, you talk about disrespectful. People want to say Jimmy Kimmel or whoever else. You talk about disrespectful. How much more disrespectful can it possibly be than to do that? Oh yeah, let me just use that exact same chair, not get a step ladder, not even have somebody get down on their hands and knees and me get up on their back, stand on their back for a few minutes so I can, disable this thing or pull this thing down. And it was a hologram projector. Believe me, don't believe me, research it yourself. It was a hologram projector. That's why they didn't care, because it was all a show. It was a stage show. See, I worked security for many, many years, a long, long time. And I worked all kinds of events. There pretty much wasn't any type of security I didn't do. I worked a lot of security. I worked indoor, outdoor, staged events. I'd seen people, I wouldn't call them staged events, let me rephrase that. Stage crew, where I've seen the stage crew, production crews, set up cameras, take down cameras, set up stages, take down stages. I worked all kinds of events. Mostly I worked at the Hard Rock in Orlando, where we had concerts and comedians and all kinds of events. Sometimes I was at backstage, green room areas. I got to meet people. I met Howie Mandel once. That guy, major germaphobe, wouldn't shake your hand, but he would, he gave me a full body hug. But and I escorted his family and everything, real short too. But anyway, I escorted his family. Really nice guy, talked to me backstage, talked to people in the elevator. Ron White, disgusting, but real nice guy. I mean, you meet people. They're human beings. You meet people. Like I said, Howie Mandel gave me a full body hug because he didn't want to shake hands. He's a major germaphobe. Matter of fact, we had to give him what's called an isolation tray, for his food. I didn't serve it to him, but the kitchen staff, they would serve him his food, and he would only eat off of plasticware and, and like styrofoam plates and stuff. Major germaphobe. The guy's still scared of getting sick. But anyway, people are strange. They're interesting. They're strange. I met a lot of people, and I mean, I did a lot of different things. I had the ability, I had the opportunity because of my background and my training, and sometimes it was just being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it was just God's favor. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know how else to say it. So I got to see a lot of stuff. I got to learn about how they do certain things, how they take things down and set things up, and pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. Hang out with the roadies and see what they did and that kind of stuff, Never really went on any tour buses or anything like that, but I did a lot of stuff. I did security work for Tim Tebow once. Not him directly, but for guarding one of his race cars. Not exactly a very fun job, but kind of a cool race car. But anyway, yeah, this is Tim Tebow's car. I'm like, really? Okay, cool. But I mean, you have the opportunity. You work around, or you live in large cities, or if you're willing to drive to large cities, and like I said, you have the background, you have the training, you have the experience, You have opportunities to do certain things, to meet certain people, to perform certain security duties. So it's harder to fool me because I'm also very skeptical and I'm suspicious. I'm not saying I can't be fooled or deceived, but I'm very skeptical and suspicious already. It's just in my nature, my investigative nature. So the Butler thing was an insult to my intelligence, and this thing I just never bought from the very beginning. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The guy's still off the world stage regardless. Speaking of the world stage, like I said, I'm not really into the gematria thing or anything, but I thought this was interesting. I was watching the Decoding with Cody thing, and they actually typed in, the words, the world stage, and it actually equaled Freemasonry. I mean, it's like, it's all connected, man. It's all connected. And like I said, that's what it reminded me of when I saw this guy get up on that chair and remove what I thought at the time was a camera, but most likely is a hologram projector. I'm thinking to myself, this is like they're taking down a stage. It's like the show's over. Okay, yeah. Everybody got to see what they wanted to see, or not see what they didn't want to see, and the show's over. And it's just like taking down the stage after an outdoor concert or an outdoor event. It's like the show's over. Everybody go home now. I worked a barricade many times. People crowd surfing and everything else. You have to catch them and set them down nicely or gently, escort them out the side, unless they were a bunch of drunk fools or whatever and they wanted to fight the whole way or whatever. And let them drop on the ground, and then pick them up and put them outside. I mean, it's just like, not to be a jerk, but you're not going to fight with drunks. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, it's just like, I said, I got a lot of experience in this. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've experienced and witnessed a lot of stuff. So it's not that easy to fool me. People agree with me, disagree with me, like it, don't like it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I mean, there's no proof of life. There's no proof of death. There's no proof of anything because there's no crime scene. There's nothing. And now it's all covered up. If there is a projectile, if there is a bullet, if there is a fragment, it's all gone. It was never collected properly. It was never, the scene completely contaminated, crime scene. It's gone. So I respect what people are doing as far as their investigative research and the Marine Sniper and all the rest of this stuff and the things people have sent me. You don't have to convince me of anything. You don't have to send me anything, you don't have to share anything. I mean, that's your choice, whatever. I believe what I believe because of what I've seen and what I witnessed and what I've observed over a matter of, I started working security in, well, actually it was 2001. Yeah, early 2001, all the way up to about 2000 and I think 17. And then also in law enforcement, military law enforcement. So, and because of my medical background, something like that. But something like that with the years. I don't remember exactly when I stopped. I want to say 2017, so about 16 years. And like I said, I was a police officer as well, military law enforcement. And then I also, so I was taught how to, maintain a crime scene. And, not to contaminate it. And to keep people out of it. And to respect it. And to honor it, basically, the dead. The injured, whatever, out of respect for them and their families or whatever else. And what I saw was a total travesty. It was a debacle. It was an embarrassment. When I say, I would have kicked the guy's Alpha Double Sierra, I mean, yeah, I get a little emotional and angry about it because if this is real, which I don't think it is, that's why, it's like, whatever. It's a stage. It's a show. It's like watching a movie or a play, But if it was real, and I was a cop, but I never saw any police around the area. I mean, maybe there were, but they just didn't show it. Maybe I didn't watch long enough. I don't know. And I see this fool drag the exact same chair over. that this guy supposedly just got assassinated in, and then stand on it like it's a step stool, I'm knocking him off the chair. Am I losing my job? Maybe. But that would have infuriated me. Maybe I yell at him to get off the chair first. But I would be so mad, I'd probably knock him off the chair. But it's not real. People can agree with me, they can disagree with me, they can like it, they can not like it. I don't care. I don't think it's real. I'm entitled to my opinion just like you're entitled to your opinion. Everybody can investigate, they can research, they can do this, they can do that. But the snake eyes thing, man, from 1998, September 10th, Charles Kirkland, shot in the neck. Trump Casino. I think that's where it was. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure it's where it was. You know, check out both of them, Decoding with Cody and Enter the Stars with Casey, and see what you think. Take the time. Look at it. You know, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, because I didn't think about that at first, but it was in my spirit though. It was in my heart to just post a few days ago. You know, believe none of what you see. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe your eyes. And that's pretty much what the tagline on the movie poster was. You know, don't believe what you see. You know, because if you just believe what's put out in front of you, you're going to be deceived. You have to go to the Holy Spirit. You have to go to the Lord. You have to pray. You might even have to fast. If you want the truth, you've got to be disciplined. You've got to take the time to understand. If you don't want the truth, if you don't care, if it doesn't interest you, if it's no big deal to you, cool. Whatever, to each their own. But I see a lot of craziness out there. Like this woman, again, Green-Eyed Okie, Jesus is the only way, posting, I guess, from TikTok or whatever, because people were so convinced that we were going to be raptured and we were going to be out of here, and maybe even still tonight. I don't know. I don't think so anymore. I think it's pretty much a done deal now. But anyway, they were so convinced. This woman literally gave up her child to CPS, to Child Protective Services, because she thought that there was going to be a rapture. And I'm scratching my head because I'm looking at this kid and I'm thinking to myself, you people are stupid that are doing this stuff, that believe this garbage. Okay? I know that's insulting, that's offensive. Get over it. What can I tell you? You're stupid. You're dumb. And you're biblically ignorant. All right? Because this woman that did this child looked young enough that they had not reached the age of accountability. Which would mean that if there was a rapture, that the child would go with you, you dummy. So there's no reason to give up your kid. Okay? I'm sure I'm going to lose a lot of subscribers. People are going to be very angry with me about this, but I don't care. Because it's time that people start to think. We can't be so gullible and naive and biblically ignorant in the times that we're living in now. We just can't. She's an idiot. And now she's trying to get her child back. I don't know if she will be able to or not. Because she gave her child up. Because she thought she was getting out of here. Selfish, stupid, and biblically ignorant. Because the child would have most likely gone. Because maybe they didn't understand salvation, or they had not reached an age of accountability. I know there's speculation as to what that age might be, but I'm sure 5 or 6 would probably still be in that age where you may not be able to understand the complete plan of salvation and accept Jesus at that particular time. I don't know, but I've heard like 11 or something of that nature, where they're accountable at that point. I don't know, okay? All I'm saying is a small child, though, would have gone with you, you dummy. I'm just going to say it because it's irritating, And then someone posted, that this is childlike faith for people to give up their cars, their houses, this, that, or whatever else because they think they're raptured. No, it's not. It's stupidity. It's stupidity, and it's being biblically ignorant. And both are a choice. People choose to be stupid, and they choose to be biblically ignorant. You don't have to be stupid, and you don't have to be biblically ignorant. They choose it. They choose it. Because If you're like, well, I'm going to sell this and sell that because we're getting raptured. I'm going to give this away or give that away because you're getting raptured. Hey, good on you, okay? Hope you can get a new car. Hope you can get a new house. Hope you can get a new whatever you got rid of, whether you donated it or sold it or whatever else. Now, if you donated it, hey, at least you're sticking with your convictions. If you sold it, I don't know what you did with the money. If you gave it to a charity or a church or whatever, okay, good on you. I mean, for doing that, maybe you can get it back so you can realize and recognize you made a mistake and get your car back or whatever else. But come on, man. That's stupid. That's not childlike faith. That's stupidity. That's not being biblically smart. You're biblically ignorant. I know I'm going to offend a lot of people. I'm going to hurt a lot of people's feelings with this, but we got to get smarter. Or else 2 Thessalonians 2, 9 through 12 is going to become a reality in just about everyone's life. Look it up. That's why I'm not reading it to you. You can look it up for yourself. 2 Thessalonians 2, 9 through 12 will become a reality. God says at the end, he says, you want the strong delusion? I'll give you the strong delusion. You want to believe the lie? You want to be biblically ignorant? You want to believe the narrative, the agenda? You want to believe what everybody tells you? You never want to go to the Holy Spirit? You never want to go to the Word? You never wanted to research or investigate for yourself? Then stay clueless. Stay stupid. Stay biblically ignorant. I know I'm so mean. I'm so mean. I'm so offensive. I know. I get it. But I'm only mean and offensive because I care. And if people have already shut me off by now because it's too long and they didn't like what I had to say or whatever else, I get it. If I didn't care, I wouldn't do this. Trust me. I got to get ready for work. I watched something before I left, something funny or entertaining or, enjoyable or whatever. But I do this because I care. And I don't want to see you deceived. And I don't want to see your family deceived. And I don't want to see you hurt. It bothers me. If it didn't bother me, I wouldn't do it. I hate deception. I hate it. That's why it's so appropriate, the term snake eyes, First time I think I heard that, I was thinking G.I. Joe, the character Snake Eyes. And then they actually made a movie a while back, G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes Origins. G.I. Joe Snake Eyes Origin, I think. Well, not a very good movie. It could have been better, but anyway, CGI is really bad. But anyway, that's what I think of. But then that 1998 movie, Snake Eyes, yeah. And then I think about the poem, from Trump, the Trump poem, the snake, And then, of course, the biblical scripture, we're supposed to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. I know I got to work on the gentle as doves part. But wise as serpents, So there's a lot of references here, And, snake eyes rolling the dice and kind of thing. The house always wins. I mean, check out the decodes if you want. Decoding with Cody, especially the one with Enter the Stars with Casey. They explain it so much better than I can. And and they use their, not only the references, but they show it on the screen and everything that they're doing. And, you can see the clips from the film and all the rest of the stuff. But like I said, this is just a fireside chat. I'm just talking to you. But I'm going to end this thing, but I'm going to end on a funny note, if I can, okay? So people will think, man, what an absolute jerk. What a bleep, 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 bleep. You offended me. You hurt my feelings. You're a jerk. I'm unsubscribing. I get it, man. I get it. But I might be a jerk. But you know what? I also might be saving your life. We'll see. I don't know. I just don't want to see people fall for every single deception that comes across the board or whatever, because I don't know that this worked the way they wanted it to. It distracted for a while, but it's not completely distracting from everything. So you could probably expect something else. Fake rapture, I don't know, some other holographic image thing that deceive people, fake alien invasion, or maybe another assassination attempt. Yeah, the one in Butler was a joke, and then the one that supposedly happened on the golf course, was even more of a joke. I'm like, man. So I get to this. Okay, this is what came to my mind because this is just where my mind goes. The original Vacation movie from 1980 with Chevy Chase. This is how I'm going to end this thing. I'm going to end it on a happy note. Okay, or not a happy note, but kind of funny. That movie's not exactly a family film, of course, right? But the beginning's pretty hilarious. The beginning's really funny. When he's going to the dealership, he'd ordered this car in advance because they're going to get the family truckster to drive from Chicago to California to go to Wally World for their vacation, right? So he'd already ordered the car in advance, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen this in a long time. It's just going on my memory. He'd already ordered the car in advance. He goes to the dealership to pick up the car, thinking that it's going to be there, and he's going to trade in his other vehicle. And so for whatever reason, the car isn't there. And so he's like, why isn't the car here? And he says, and the salesman wants to try to sell him another car because the car is not there that he ordered. And he said, so first they bring up the car. That's right. First they bring up the car, and then he goes, this is not the car I ordered. And so the salesman calls someone in the garage. He goes, this is not the car Mr. Griswold ordered. He goes, where's the car that Mr. Griswold ordered? He goes, oh, that car didn't come in. He goes, oh. And he says, well, the car didn't come in, Mr. Griswold. He goes, well, why didn't the car come in, Ed, or whatever his name is? And he says, I ordered it well in advance. He said it should be here. And he says, I don't know. So he calls somebody over. He's just like, where's the car? And he goes, I don't know. So he goes, I know what must have happened, Mr. Griswold. He goes, it's probably just on back order. And he said, but if you want a vehicle, and he said, this is the car you really want. If you're going to take the tribe across the nation, this is the car. This is the. He goes, Ed, this is not the car I ordered. This is not the car I wanted. He goes, I'm not your everyday, ordinary fool, Ed. Something of that nature. He's just like, I want the car I ordered. Well, we don't have the car you ordered. He goes, well, I don't want this car. And he says, okay. He goes, hey, Ed, I'm tired of this. See, because they're treating him like he's a fool. They're treating him like he's an idiot. Does this sound familiar? Aren't you tired of being treated like you're a fool and an idiot? Aren't you tired of being treated like you're stupid? Not just from me. I know I've said people are stupid and biblically ignorant, and I'm not going to take that back, because if you give up your kid because you think you're going to get raptured, or you sell your house or your car or whatever else because you think you're going to get raptured, you're biblically ignorant, okay? You need to read the Bible better, more, or get with somebody that understands it better than you do, because you're biblically ignorant, all right? But this guy, he says, this isn't my car. I want my car. He goes, I want the car I ordered. He goes, well, we don't have it. And he says, okay, fine. Then bring my other car back. This is what's really funny. Not just the dialogue, but they're already compacting his car that he supposedly was going to trade in for the car that he ordered, right? So it's too late now. So like, they're already crushing his car that he brought in, his old car, like a tin can, right? And so he has no choice but to take that car. And then he drives it home, what's his wife do? She's like, this isn't the car you ordered. He goes, I know. He goes, but, honey, if you want to take the fam, he puts the same sales pitch on her that he gets. If you want to take the tribe across country, this is the vehicle for us. This is the vehicle we really want to have. So it's like, because what choice does he have? They crushed his other car, right? And the car he ordered didn't come in. So now he gets stuck with this thing with the trash bag airbags. That's their family truckster now, right? Don't you feel like Clark Griswold? That's how they treat us. That's how they treat us. They treat us like we're idiots. They treat us like we're stupid. We're supposed to believe a bullet that long and that wide, got lodged in Superman's neck. The guy they claim is Superman, so much like Jesus that his neck was made of steel. They're not changing the narrative. They're not changing the agenda on anything. They treat us like we're idiots, like we're stupid. So, like I said, even if the Marine sniper's assessment is correct, you know, well, even if it is, still don't have any evidence. All we still have is a theory. Just like mine. Mine's a theory too. I don't have any evidence other than the fact that, from what I could tell, what it looked like was a hologram projector. And if you research and you really look things up and you take the time, you will see that holograms look very, very, very realistic. You add in the trapdoor, like the movie The Prestige. You add in the lack of blood, the lack of arterial spray, the lack of, blood spray in the back of the tent, and everything else, which would explain, I guess, if it came from the back, why there was no blood spray in the back of the tent. But still, you add all that stuff up. You add in the Snake Eyes movie. You add in the way they treated the crime scene. You add in the removal of the stage right afterward, covering everything up, with concrete, no evidence, the fake coroner report, the insulting, of everyone's intelligence, still sticking with it being a 30-06 bullet, and the lack of blood just in general, and loading them in the SUV, and you add all of that stuff up, it seems to me like it is an elaborate performance in a stage show. Not to mention the whole thing with TPUSA since then, and the takeover, and who took over, and the lack of remorse, and the lack of grief, and just, how it turns into a political rally and an event, and it's a stage show. It's a performance. That's all it is. So, anyway, Snake Eyes, man. Snake Eyes. That's what this is. It's all Snake Eyes. It rolls up Snake Eyes. All right, I gotta go. Y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye.